for the EDICULA courses. Professor Anna Lobovicov-Katz from Technion through WebEx. Pouli Paraskevi from 4th TESL Opto CH through WebEx. Mike Turner or Adisela, no, Mike will be connected through WebEx from the Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design in Jerusalem. Elisabetta Gentry, professor from Ca' Foscari in Venice, who is coordinator of the PhD program concerning conservation science and technology, and Professor Gabriele Favero from Sapienza. I think we could start. Could you please check whether the first speakers are connected? And I ask who are with physical presence here: Professor Gabriele Favero, Professor Karadimas, Antonia Lambropoulou, to come to the Presidium. Everybody is connected, apart from Elisabetta Gentry, but I hope she will later on. So it's of great interest and responsibility that we are discussing here about the novel educational approach for the preservation of cultural heritage. Moderating this panel and with the experience of 22 years directing the direction of materials and preservation interventions at the NTUA interdisciplinary program, which is performed at the School of Architecture concerning the preservation of monuments. I had the experience of an adventure. This adventure was a travel to interdisciplinarity. We started speaking different languages, but finally we communicated effectively among us. And we even succeeded to communicate out from National Technical University of Athens with major actors of archaeological directorates of the Ministry of Culture, of other people from not only the Ministry of Culture, but other public stakeholders of cultural heritage, as well as private actors from industry, even industry of materials or industry of construction, restoration. So this is an adventure of 22 years, which is bringing us here. And what was the career of this articulating a common language? The career was exemplary projects where we exemplified interdisciplinarity, and we succeeded to communicate among us and with all the environment, stakeholding, managing, and preserving cultural heritage. Upon these issues, we are going to discuss today, considering the project of the Holy Sepulchre of the Holy Edicule rehabilitation as an example, as a pilot of applied courses which are trying to transfer the know-how from the one discipline to the other and to construct the actual critical points which are reconstructing the project, the study, the diagnosis, the documentation, from the first point to the last point of application. Last fortnight, we had applied at the NTUA with a joint venture with the homonymous Master of La Sapienza and Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design, a series of seminars articulating actually a pilot lecture. Hence, today we have to discuss in depth how shall we endeavor an interdisciplinary, international, joint effort through our master courses, because at this level we are discussing right now. I don't know if Professor Arakadaki is connected. Is she connected? Okay, great. Professor Maria Rakadaki from Aristotle University of Salonika, School of Architecture. She is directing the master course, Protection, Conservation and Restoration of Monuments, of Cultural Monuments. Maria, you are having the floor. Δεν έχει συνδεθεί. Όχι. Τι, Louis Succeed. Okay, okay. Okay, Maria, you're having the floor. You're mostly welcome.
Okay, sorry. Again, good afternoon from Thessaloniki, the rainy Thessaloniki. Many thanks to you, Professor Moropoulou, for your kind invitation. The more so as the subjects of this conference are of special interest for me, both as coordinator of the interdisciplinary postgraduate program Protection, Conservation and Restoration of Cultural Monuments, and as professor at the School of Architecture of Aristotle University. I would like to give you a short outline of the aims and the curriculum of historic postgraduate program that since its establishment in 1998 has produced almost 500 highly qualified alumni, most of them employed in state cultural and local governmental authorities. The aims. Well, the aim of the postgraduate program is above all, as you said before, to teach to its students how interdisciplinarity works, to help them understand that they should have to contribute to the joint aim, and at the same time, what they should expect by other disciplines. In other words, to help them form that common language which will allow them coexist and cooperate with other disciplines under common rules. The program, as you know, follows biennial academic periods and is supported by all 7 schools of our Faculty of Engineering. It offers 2 alternative directions, 2 specializations, the A on architectural monuments and B on artworks and mechanisms. Architects, civil surveyor, mechanical engineers, and archaeologists are accepted in the first case, and the conservators, archaeologists, chemical and mechanical engineers, chemists, and Schools of Fine Arts graduates in the second one. The curriculum of the program consists of theoretical classes, studios, fieldwork, seminars, educational trips, etc. In the first specialization, the heart of students' training is the interdisciplinary studio, which is based on an initial stage of fieldwork. We form mixed teams of students, typically of 2 architects, 1 civil engineer, 1 surveyor, 1 mechanical engineer, and 1 archaeologist, who are asked to study and document selected historic buildings and then to elaborate their restoration, enhancement, and redesigning projects. I'd like here to note the critical role of the archaeologists who undertake the archival and the bibliographic research for the buildings examined. Of course, our curriculum is based on the close in-person collaboration among students and teaching staff. As you understand, the long-lasting pandemic situation was a great challenge for us to make those adaptive changes that would allow us to handle the whole thing without losing the substantial parts of the courses. The theoretical classes were given online. Some technical studios were postponed for this September, and the project tutoring on the disciplinary studio was done via Zoom platform. We were lucky enough, we were very, very lucky to complete the campaign of fieldwork in the city of Kavala. Before lucky to complete the campaign of fieldwork, otherwise we could not operate in time, otherwise we could not operate the studio. A new idea this time was that we used 4 of our doctoral candidates who are also alumni of our postgraduate program as assistants for the interdisciplinary studio, as a link between students and teachers, with excellent results both in fieldwork and in project. To sum up, in the description of the aims of this conference, I was very glad to notice certain, in my opinion, critical keywords: humanities, dialogue, democracy. During the first conference of 2018, still new in head of our program for hardly 1 month, I had expressed my agony about the increasing pushing aside, the disregarding of humanities in universities and in postgraduate curriculums. I had stressed out that technological innovations already offer solutions for almost everything. But we also need to teach our students how to approach cultural heritage goods with the proper respect, the proper sensitivity, how to understand and appreciate their intangible values. Speaking about crisis, I think we must have in mind that crises are not just economic. They are usually preceded by crises of political and cultural values. That is why I am now more than sure that the approach to technological innovation, as described in this conference, is exactly what it should be. That's for now. Thank you.
And especially for the key words, very important, and they evolved through time. I have the pleasure to invite Professor Kostas Karadimas, who is the director of the postgraduate master course program, Protection of Monuments at the NTUA, at the School of Architecture. Costa, you are having the floor.
Thank you, Professor Moropoulou. As Professor Moropoulou told you, I'm Kostas Karadimas. I'm a professor in the School of Architecture. I'm teaching both conservation and construction, and I'm the director of the master's course of Protection of Monuments. The main discussion that we have today, which is the in the disciplinarity of the various of the various persons and of the various aspects that are involved in this type of, education. I think that it's better to start with going back in the past and having a close view of what is actually this course that Professor Moropoulou and others that were involved in, in this aspect was. At first, though in Greece we have a great range of monuments, we started dealing with a scientific way of their protection quite lately. Both courses in Salonika and in Athens, they started in 1998. Also, this was after, so many things, so many charters and so many discussions that took place for the monuments. But actually, the engineers that wanted to study and to study conservation were going abroad. From that time, from 1998 up to now, we have an experience of, educating more than 500 mainly engineers that are architects, that are civil engineers, that are rural and surveying engineers, that are chemical engineers, and also many other persons that are not educated in engineering, but they are archaeologists, they are conservators, they are curators. And this is the first important issue. The first important issue of interdisciplinarity is the fact how these, people that have a different culture in basic, are connected together and working together. I think the one is actually giving head to the other. From that sense, actually, it is mainly according to the main aspect that we are talking about. There might be a leader, but all the various disciplinarities are actually needed. Also, this is the way and can be seen from the program we are having. The program has in both directions, which are the direction first, the conservation and restoration of historic buildings and sites, which is run by the School of Architecture in the National Technical University, and the direction B, which is the material conservation interventions, which is run by the Chemical Engineering School, have a very broad curriculum. The curriculum starts from certain mandatory fields that are actually, and lessons that are actually giving a basic education to all various people that are, or to all various students that are involved. And also we are having some elective courses. The elective courses are the ones that from one hand are are educating the various engineers and the various scientists that are involved in that, but also they are giving a kind of, specialized knowledge that these persons can give, but can have. But the importance of this is the fact that actually all of them are having one basic level, which is actually given in all these lessons and in all these terms. The mandatory aspects are actually starting with history and theory of restoration, introduction of pathology, and some methodological aspects that actually giving the broad term of what is to be done and how is to be done. The elective courses are aiming not in the special field of interest of the various scientists, but also in order to give a general culture to all other scientists and to all other students, so that they come up to the point of being able to discuss together and to carry on a project together. This also is very obvious in our direction, in the direction of the School of Architecture, when we are dealing with specific buildings and specific sites, which means that the knowledge of the various specialities, it's actually of great importance. It is the fact that even the young architects that are involved in the course realize the fact how important it is to work with an archaeologist, how important it is to read, say, a building and to find the phases of it. And it's also other aspects that are pretty well known, like the importance of how a civil engineer or how a mechanical engineer or how a rural surveyor are connected together with an architect and are, completing a total study. This type of interdisciplinarity, which is something that we try to teach even in, the basic courses, in the undergraduate courses, are actually aiming to the fact that now all the aspects are so complicated that cannot be solved by one person. Definitely, there is a standard culture which is needed, and standard education, a standard level of education that is needed, but all the specific specialities are actually combined together and are giving, their view, their important aspect, so that you come up to a final aim, which is the completion, say, of the study or the completion of the project or whatever. The second important things of, things that are being connected, it's the fact that now it's not only a teaching which is isolated in the university, but is a teaching which is done in connection with the Ministry of Culture, mainly, but with other municipalities and with other public authorities in Greece that actually need to solve a problem. This gives another also important aspect, which is the fact that we cultivate, local communities by educating our students, which is an aspect which is of some importance, because this aspect of going back to the community where you have done a project, where we have done a study, and actually saying things about, the importance of the heritage is equally important as to the fact of, educating persons. There are two other important aspects that we have now. The one aspect is the digital revolution, which of course is not something new, but it's something that has started, many years back, but it's something that you come up to the point of seeing how important it is and how easier our work, the work not only of the teachers, but the work of the ones that are dealing with conservation and restoration, is getting easier with all these digital methods that we have in terms of evaluating and in terms of measuring and in terms of doing all these, so interesting things that we are doing. This gives also a very good example of how the various scientists should work together. The various scientists, one is combined with the other, and one is actually giving his speciality to the other, so that we come to the final, result, which is the great importance. Another thing, as Professor Arakadakis said, is the problems that we faced during this period with the pandemic of COVID. Yes, definitely. We were forced to do all our lessons in computer. We were not able to teach in situ, especially in our fields that many of the works that we are having are actually site visits and site works. This had the problems of not us being able to go to, a monument or whatever. But from that point of view, we managed in one way or another to find other issues that are of great importance. Like we are now preparing a book where we are gathering all the projects that we have done in a specific area, and we are going to publish the book with all these projects that have to do either with building sites, either with buildings or the total area of this specific place. This is actually giving an evolution and giving another issue of how, in terms, when we are in one way or another we have a problematic situation as the one that we are having now. If we are trying and if we are positive about the whole thing, you can find different solutions in terms of how we can use our students and how we can use our programs. Again, the interdisciplinarity of this work is really of great importance, because actually by going back to the project that you have done in the school and trying to prepare a book and trying to find things that, since it's going to be published, has some importances, it's really very important to see the way this connection of the various disciplines gives you a better result and a better performance of the final project. These are actually the real issues that I wanted to point out, and actually point out also the fact that the way we are educating our students, we're educating them so that they know that it's not one-man show. It's something which is done by by all scientists that actually heading towards the final result and towards the possible better solution for the project or for the study or for whatever they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Karadimas, for the very thorough presentation of the evolution, the problems and the challenges of the master's course Protection of Monuments at the NTUA. I would like to invite Antonia Lambropoulou as an evaluator of the curricular reform concerning the EDICULA project and the recent seminars at the 3 master courses of Sapienza, Bezalel, and NTUA.
Hello. So Professor Moropoulou has already described the EDICULA project, which is an Erasmus project for a strategic alliance developing novel educational approaches initiated at the Holy Sepulchre Rehabilitation. The 5 main educational outputs are the educational toolkit, the curricular information that we're discussing today, hands-on framework, and digital games. These are the outputs. So regarding curricular reformation, we have 3 stages. The first one is the postgraduate reformation, a proposed curricular reformation on 3 master courses. And then the doctoral reformation with the organization of 3 co-tutels. These are joint PhD degrees in the 3 universities. And then we need to disseminate this in a teacher's course that we're going to prepare in 2023 to discuss our outputs with other master courses. Now, the 3 master courses that are involved in this program are from Greece, Italy, and Israel. The first one is the master program that Professor Karadimas, our director, has just described. They all have different focuses and aims, but they are all collateral, and they cover all the aspects in cultural heritage protection, from analytical techniques to engineering aspects for the sustainability of cultural heritage. So the first one is the NTUA program Protection of Monuments. The second one is the La Sapienza Master Program in Science and Technology for the Conservation of Cultural Heritage with Professor Favero here, his director, their director. And the postgraduate program in Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design in Urban Design. The aims, as I said, are different, but they all they all aim to develop competencies for their graduates to solve complex problems, for difficult conservation, analytical conservation problems based on, according to knowledge-based solutions. So the curricular reformation that was implemented in TUA regarded the evolution from teaching characteristics applications as case studies into integrated interactive seminars that were emblematic case studies to emphasize transdisciplinarity. So we organized a short seminar of 7 days, 3 hours per day, in 5 continuous days, 3 hours per day, so that it wouldn't be very heavy, from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. It was all in WebEx, and it was organized from December 1st until December 7th, only a few days ago, but we already have some outcomes from this seminar. It's accredited to 7 ECTS because it's a curricular formation for the optional course Interdisciplinary Documentation Diagnosis, Revealing and Protection of Cultural Heritage through Sustainable Development that already existed in the program, in the master program Protection of Monuments, and is now being reformed, is proposed to be reformed according to the whole EDICULA rehabilitation approach. It will also be uploaded at the EDICULA Educational Toolkit, which is a Moodle platform. So this is the program of the 5 days and some pictures from the presentations. We try to have only short presentations, like 1 hour the most, so as not to be very tiring, but it would also be very condensed. In this seminar participated 64 participants from the 3 universities, both students, mainly students, postgraduate students, but also postdocs and lecturers. And because the level of these participants was high, the dialogue in post was very fast and clear, so we didn't have a lot of questions. We had interactions at the end of each lecture. What was the approach gained through these seminars? So innovation. Innovation is a key element, but not only as producing new knowledge, but also innovation in the implementation process of these rehabilitation projects, with emphasis on technological advancements. Of course, transdisciplinary collaboration was the main aspect, because it's the only way to address multi-level challenges of such complex projects of built cultural heritage protection. And the final outcome is the sustainability of this rehabilitation only through a holistic approach, based on compatibility and performance criteria. The competencies and technical skills gained were gained through educational approaches like problem-based learning, which is one of the main approaches for the engineers, but not only in grand challenges, but also in scenarios that acted on a real-time, real scale, because that was the difference in the educational approach gained at the holistic rehabilitation. It was, even the education initiated there was on real time, on a real scale. We had students during the project that had their laboratory exercises on the rehabilitation, on the work site. The digital tools, the digital nature of this research, not of course served as a common language now these days. It's very appropriate, but it was mainly the only way to successfully address future challenges, the documentation, the digital nature of it, the platforms that were initiated, and we tried to express this through the seminars as well. It was important to demonstrate the necessity for scientific support in decision-making, which is also connected to communication strategies, so that society is also involved in this decision-making because of the very difficult social, political, and religious conditions that were imposed in the rehabilitation of the Holy Sepulchre, but are usually imposed in all grand rehabilitation projects and monuments. And the know-how transfer regards to a mentality, actually, not only as knowledge or an issues. It's not only an issues resolution, but it's not only a duplication of knowledge, but also an issues resolution. We try to change the mentality of the future generations. That's why we have prepared this seminar as well. So this first EDICULA seminar, we're going to have a lot more, not only from the NTUA, but from the other two universities. It aims to highlight the innovations applied, the disciplinarity, and it can only be organized and developed through various complementary scientific disciplines. So not only we need this interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity in the organization, but in the audience as well. That's why we chose the rehabilitation project at the whole EDICULA, because it's a full-scale integrated project, and thus this approach can serve it as an educational tool par excellence. So it's not only an educational tool, but also a level of education, because because of the emerging professional profiles and the new roles and responsibility that have risen in this current era, for the last decade at least, or 20 years actually, because that's when the master programs in protection of monuments started to be organized. So there is a need for new roles and responsibility, but mainly we need to create through these graduates a nucleus of change of mentality, as we already said, so people that can be introduced to new ideas and know-how and expertise and be able to perform it in their own projects. So that is the transferability potential, that is the aim of this project. Because we in the EDICULA project, as we said before, not only we have the curricular information, but we also have the hands-on workshop in Jerusalem and Alexandria that you were all invited by Addis Alaviner this morning in March 2022 and in June 2022 in Alexandria. And finally, in 2023, we're going to have the EDICULA teachers course, which we aim to train higher education teachers, that is, directors and teachers from other master programs, not only in protection of monuments, because we want to promote the transdisciplinarity and the scientific synthesis as the key element for innovative education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lambropoulou, for this survey and evaluation of the series of seminars we performed at the NTUA in a joint effort with Sapienza and Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design. I have the pleasure to invite a senior lecturer of the Faculty of Architecture and Town Planning at Technion University, Dr. Anna Lobovikov-Katz. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I would like to share screen.
Okay. Έχεις συνδεθεί? Okay. Anna, you are mostly welcome. Please. Anna?
Okay, can you see it properly? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Please, go
yes,
on.
thank you.
Thank you. I would like to speak about the project, which was a common project, a joint project with other universities, and the National Technical University of Athens, with Professor Antonia Marapoulou, leading the team, Ca' Foscari with Professor Biscantin, the University of Antwerp with Professor Evan Grikin, and the University of Malta with Professor Joan Cassar. And this project was led by the Technion. I was head of the project, and it was a huge contribution from all partners, which grew up from a maybe small idea that actually general public, and this is some point different from the previous presentations, which focused on university education. This project was aimed to enable general public to understand cultural heritage, and also to make some sort of contribution to investigation and analysis of cultural heritage. This was, of course, the most problematic point, and from my point of view, the most valuable point of the issue of the project contribution. So we aimed to meet somehow between the general public's unawareness of cultural heritage, not speaking from conservation, of course, of cultural heritage, and between the advanced scientific research. Of course, as I mentioned, the partners, unlike Technion, which has a very advanced technological basis and also very strong educational department, education of science and technology, there were no studies program in conservation in those years. And unlike Technion, all other partners had very well established programs in conservation or preservation, as we might say, of cultural heritage. So we try to combine together the joint diverse different areas of expertise of the partners, and at the same time to solve the problem as it was formulated before the submitting of the project. So you can see the logo of the project, which is a pencil supporting the arch. It was a sort of symbolizing that the analysis, learning, can bring a real difference to preservation of cultural heritage, namely learning of the general public. It was a European project, and I am presenting specific aspect this evening, and I will be glad if you can also attend that short lecture. And according to the European call, it was to raise the awareness of cultural heritage among youth. But we extended our internal purposes, aims, and we actually, at the end of the project, we developed first methodology, then we tested methodology in diverse courses which actually took part in different locations, and all partners actually came to give lectures to high school students. It was a great experience for the students. And just recently in my course non-related to conservation at the Technion, some student told me that he was the pupil in that project. And after testing methodology, the project produced, all the partners produced the educational toolkit, which was available online freely until for more than 6 years, about 7 years. Now it is currently not on the available, but I can show you some small pieces of the project, and this is the main idea, right? The ELICH, as we called it, Educational Linkage Approach in Cultural Heritage. Its purpose was to develop educational toolkit for educators and heritage authorities to introduce the values of cultural heritage. We mostly focused on built heritage and the principles and challenges of its preservation to youth. However, by the end of the project, the toolkit could be used by anybody, a school child, high school students, or its parents or grandparents or anybody in any educational framework. Okay, so I would like to show you specific base, actually, not to try to escape that, but to base on negative, that there is frequent misuse and vandalism by the general public of cultural heritage. But general public, even then, it was about 10 years ago, sophisticated visitors to intangible virtual reality, and we try to combine as it was formulated already later, actually.
Anna? Most probably it was lost, huh? Anna? Shall we go on? No. Κώστα, τι γίνεται? Έπεσε η σύνδεση. We will go on with the next speaker and keep her in contact if she returns to continue and accomplish later. I have to invite Paraskevi Pouli, researcher at FORTH, the Foundation for Research and Technology, the Institute for Structure and Laser, Electronic Structure and Laser. Paraskevi, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Back again. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Dismiss.
So I'm really grateful for your kind invitation to participate to this panel discussion on novel educational approach for the preservation of cultural heritage. As you already mentioned, I am a researcher at the Institute of Electronic Structure and Lasers of the Foundation for Research and Technology in Greece, which is located in Heraklion. So my contribution this afternoon comes from a different point of view. We are a research institute, so we do not have an academic curriculum, but we are very much interested to show to the people, to the scientists, to the professionals in conservation, our work, our instruments, our methodologies. So in order to be able to reach this aim, we introduce a series of summer courses, training courses.
Pardon?
You cannot hear me?
I hear. Now I hear.
Okay.
Yes, what is the question?
Um,
And
so
then we come back to Anna,
I continue?
please.
Yes, I
Yes,
guess.
please.
Yes.
So we introduced this series of training courses 10 years ago in 2012. The Opto-CH summer courses last for 4 to 5 days. And the character, the flavor, and the numbers of this course will be described in details later this afternoon in my talk. What I would like to give you now is just a small flavor of our experience. The courses combine lectures from experts on modern laser diagnostics and analytical techniques, as well as laser observation methodologies, with practical demonstrations and hands-on laboratory experiments. And this is very important because the participants of these courses can see, can feel how the analytical techniques work and how laser clinic operates, and possibly they can use it on their samples that they bring with them. The topics covered include material analysis and laser spectroscopy, like LIBS, Raman, optical coherence metrology for structural diagnosis, and a number of imaging and mapping techniques such as multispectral, photoacoustic, and terahertz imaging for identification of materials and their stratigraphy. A novel and unique aspect of Opto-CH courses is the opportunity that we offer to the participant to experience how these analytical and diagnostic techniques are applied on site at selected monuments in Crete. Here we collaborate with the local Ephorate of Antiquities of Heraklion, and we work together on some very important monuments of the city. Actually, the last 2 days of the workshop, each Opto-CH workshop, are dedicated to field tests and experiments in order to demonstrate the applicability of the techniques in practice. The participants, which are coming from different backgrounds, we are multidisciplinary, they are divided in small groups and they participate to the actual measurements on site, while they are also introduced to data handling and data post-processing. More than 170 people have been joined our training courses in the past 10 years, and we are indeed very excited with this unique experience. Beyond the obvious benefits, as for example the closer connection with the conservators and restorers, and the new ideas that are inspired through fruitful collaborations and discussion during the course, we feel very important that this course acts as forms an active community of heritage scientists and professionals who are informed about the advantages offered by laser technology in cultural heritage, their handling, their good practice, guidelines and limitations, and finally, we feel that they act like ambassadors of our work and research all over the world. I think this is what I would like to mention just for now, and all the details will be described later in the afternoon in my talk.
Παρασκευή Πουλή. It's very interesting. And I'm going back to Anna Lobovik-Kach to ask her to accomplish her presentation. Anna, could you quickly wrap up, please? Are you connected? Okay, Anna, please wrap up to accomplish your presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
In my previous attempt, may we say, did you see anything or it stopped in the very beginning?
We've heard everything, Anna. We've heard everything. You just wrap up to accomplish. We've heard and saw everything. Κώστα, μπορείς να κάνεις unmute το δικό μου μέσω του...
Can you hear me now?
Anna?
Yes, we can hear you. We have
Yes.
seen 3 or 4.
quite heavy application was the offline version of the project. So I will show you some pictures, or maybe, okay, we will skip the pictures. The project was intended for the general public. By the end of the project, we developed educational toolkit, which presented the inter and multidisciplinary character of the contemporary conservation of cultural heritage. And it was enabled by the website. By e-learning platform. Just a moment.
Anna?
Can you hear now my presentation?
Need to wrap up and accomplish rapidly because there are 3 others in the queue and the system will fail again. Sorry, we have to go on. There is a communication problem. We have to go to Jerusalem now, to Professor Mike Turner from Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design, UNESCO Chair in Urban Design and Conservation Studies, head of the partner of the EDICULA Erasmus Plus on behalf of Bezalel Academy. Mike, we wish you recovery. Next time to be with us. You are having the floor. Είναι συνδεδεμένος. Όχι. Ποιος είναι συνδεδεμένος? Είναι η Ελιζαμπέτα Τζέντρι?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here.
Ok. Elisabetta, buonasera.
Buonasera.
Va bene. You have the floor, Elisabetta.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry, I feel my voice as an echo, but in any case, thank you, Antonia Moropoulou, and I'm very honored by this invitation. I'm Elisabetta Zendi, Associate Professor at Ca' Foscari University of Venice, and I coordinate a master degree in Conservation Science and Technology for Cultural Heritage. And my intervention takes suggestions from some indication reported in the document European Quality Principle for Cultural Heritage, published by ICOMOS and the European Union in 2018, and from my educational and professional experiences. In part 4 of the document underlines that the quality of education and training programs has a direct impact on the attainment of quality outcomes in the cultural interventions. And my recommendation reported suggests that education and training courses and programs in the cultural heritage sector should conform to the relevant international standard and guidance in the field and regularly update their curriculum to be abreast to technical developments and innovation. An additional recommendation suggests that education and training institutions should be encouraged to develop relationships and networks between themselves. These suggestions are crucial, and I think our mission could be to realize almost a part of them at the European level. I want to draw your attention on the role of the heritage scientists that, in my opinion, are often only marginally involved in the conservation process despite careful education. The strong impact of the scientific strategies for preserving cultural heritage has been not yet assimilated by those who must oversee the conservation. This situation should be changed, also considering the needed contribution of the conservation science in contributing to the European Green Deal, as reported in the European Cultural Heritage Green Paper. I would propose you some possible actions to update and make effective the education in science for the cultural heritage at European level. The first step, for me very important, is the legal recognition of the profession and the role of the heritage scientists at the European level. Without this recognition, any action at the level of university education loses consistency. We will do also project and design shared bachelor and master's degree at the European level, or a long time master's degree in applied science for heritage preservation. The training could include a period dedicated to a common European background about the meaning of cultural heritage by social science, humanities, theory, and history of conservation. The students should have to face the basic scientific knowledge and the sciences applied to cultural heritage, materials characterization, decay processes, materials for conservation or restoration of goods, and so on. And education in local culture and practices for preserving cultural heritage and landscape should be included in this master degree or bachelor or long time degree. In force of the complexity of this education program, I think a specific long-time master's degree could be more effective and successful for promoting a proper education and professional figure. But the first step, the most important step, is the recognition of the role of the heritage scientists at European level. And thank you for your attention. And I hope this could be one of the more opportunity to sharing our opinion on this crucial issue. Thank you.
For the valuable contribution. Is Professor Turner connected? Is he connected? Mike, the floor is yours. Η Ελιζαμπέτα είναι πάλι. Τον Μάικ να συνδέσουμε.
Hello.
It's okay.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Κώστα, τι έγινε με τον Τέρνερ? Δεν πειράζει, μπορείς να συνδέσεις τη φωνή του.
Hello.
Ωραία, να μιλήσει. Mike, do you hear me? The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Line.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Tonia Morapulo for inviting us, and also our partners at Gabriele at La Sapienza. I would just like to talk about three main points because it's really building on the EDICULA project. I can say that we don't have solutions, we have problems which we would like to address. Currently, as Anna has said, there's no formal post-professional conservation course in Israel. So therefore, this is something which needs to be addressed. I'm going to talk about three particular points. The first one is that of crafts and traditional knowledge. The second one is the interdisciplinarity and the potential of EDICULA in developing a joint master's program. And third is to pick up what Elisabetta spoke about, is certification. These are three essential issues which we are going to address in EDICULA, and I hope that we will have the opportunity of having the third TMM debate in Athens next year. So the first one is to actually look at crafts. One would almost think it's strange that an arts and design academy is joining with engineering. But in fact, these are the subjects of the materials, whether it is in ceramics, whether it is in glass, whether it is in other materials. But these are the crafts which now come and actually need to be then rediscovered. And we are very excited that our partner is also the Israel Antiquities Authority, because one of the activities of EDICULA is to join together and use these labs as a basis for learning experiences and to actually build on the experiences which were shared at the Holy Sepulchre. The second part is therefore of the Joint Masters program. Our proposal in EDICULA is to actually take this interdisciplinarity by taking three universities at Bezalel, at NTUA and La Sapienza, each with a different discipline, and join together with a joint master's proposal. So it is very much the issues of the use of modern materials. What are the values and the context of using titanium in the EDICULA? Do we go back to historic materials? Do we then have new interpretations of these materials? So I think that the important part of it is then the understanding of hands-on activities of which we will actually take part within the EDICULA project, and building on what we had that Antonia spoke about previously, the seminar which took place last week. But to build on the other issues, is that of urban conservation is perhaps almost too wide. What is the issues of managing then the ideas of urban conservation with materials? Can we manage all the scales from the object to the building to the city? And how do we then put this together into one package? I put this as a question because I do think that on one hand, we're now at a crossroads. If we look at the World Heritage Convention, that we have now 200 sites which are under threat of urban heritage, because we're addressing urban heritage with the architectural tools of yesterday. This needs new approaches, new tools, and this is where EDICULA is going to make a big difference. The third aspect is that of certification, and that links with another important part to deal with, is CPD, continuing professional development. And I think this is where we need to become more involved. Long life learning experiences is important, and therefore how we then have continuing professional development and putting cultural heritage as one of the elements involved is one stepping stone for the wider aspects of certification. So we're looking also this aspect. We know that ICOMOS has spent a lot of time to try to manage what certification means. And I think that what, as Elisabetta said, we need to discuss this over the next part of the EDICULA parts to see how this becomes available. I think this is to have a series of bring together not just the academy, but also the certification groups of the EU and each of our countries, so as to bring together this debate. I think these are our three challenges, and we're looking forward to the next stage of EDICULA to move us ahead together. Thank you.
Mike, great. And now I have the pleasure to pass the floor to Gabriele Favero, professor from La Sapienza, for his contribution and for concluding this panel.
Thank you very much, Professor Moropoulou. I have a few slides please, if you can start my presentation. Okay, thank you. Even if most of those things have been already described either by Professor Moropoulou or Professor Lampropoulou and also Mike Turner and other people that spoke today. And inside the several objectives of EDICULA, there is the reform of the curricula of 3 postgraduate programs and the development of a PhD in co-tutelle by the 3 academic institutions. And the Sapienza University is involved in the project of EDICULA and leads also this work package that is connected to the educational reformation and the development of a PhD. And to this end, we try to find a common path inside these 3 different masters, the methodologies for the conservation intervention at the National Technical University of Athens, and that is the main topic of the postgraduate program in protection of monuments. And while in Sapienza University, our master deals with techniques and scientific aspects of conservation intervention, and our master is entitled Science and Technology for Conservation of Cultural Heritage. And then the third master in urban design deals with documentation and knowledge-based design. So trying to put those things together is our effort in order to obtain a transdisciplinary approach, and also to train people to try to emerge scientists that are transdisciplinary in their information and will allow a different awareness also to common people towards cultural heritage. And there is also a doctoral thesis per university partner. And at this point, I quickly recap what is already presented today. The reformation of National Technical University of Athens consisted in a seminar series that had been carried out last week and have been attended by people of the 3 academic institutions. And on Sapienza side, we reformed last year the master course in science applied to cultural heritage. We changed the 2 mandatory exams and proposed also 1 new course in climate risk assessment, and reformed also the syllabus of an existing course of introduction to thesis. And our master is focused on the scientific disciplines, but by this reform we tried to take into account all the four main scientific disciplines that are present during the course, that are the chemistry, physics, biology, and earth sciences. And the idea is to change, to modulate the syllabus of those course, either those mandatory and the free one, in order to use the toolkit, the educational toolkit of EDICULA, the contents coming from the experience in rehabilitation of the EDICULA and the Holy Sepulchre. And we succeeded in reforming our course, and during the next year we will try to pave the way towards the joint degree that will be a possible future exploit of EDICULA project. And Bezalel is opening a new conservation heritage track in her master program that will be the part of this hopefully upcoming joint course, joint degree for the three academic institutions. And as far as the doctoral reformation is concerned, we just started a PhD program, and we have here in the room Adi Sela-Wiener, which is now also a PhD student in Sapienza University. And we are addressing also those bureaucratic problems to activate the co-tutel of the thesis, either with Bezalel or with another institution. And the title of our PhD is Cityscape Materials and Materiality, Redefining Urban Heritage Materiality, a conceptual study of Jerusalem. And she has some research, general research objective and specific objectives. Now, okay. And the specific objectives are the contemporary definition for materials, materiality as contributing attributes in urban heritage. And also, on the other hand, the assessment tool for examining the components of material and materiality as part of a heritage impact assessment in urban renewal processes. And final slide, the future implication. In Italy, we have a 3 years period for the PhD, so there is this is the duration of a PhD. So the future implication may be, hopefully, in the next coming 2 years, is learning from Jerusalem and Rome, and thus to enable drafting recommendation of new materials applicability, and also from educational-wise, have some insights from the field work and hands-on worship with EDICULA joint master degree in conservation. And maybe next time Adi will describe in full detail the exploits and the results of her PhD that just started last week. Last week she had the presentation and the approval of the project. And during this panel, I took some notes about all the speakers, and I have some keywords here. I don't know if I can.
Yes, please go.
I can go on with this, and I see that there are two stages, two points. One is the formation of professionals at an academic point of view, and the other one is the permanent education of common people. And several of the speakers spoke about these two different aspects, and some of them are mostly involved in the first one, in academic formation, some of them in common people formation, in order to make them aware of the importance of cultural heritage and the difficulties and all the problems that are connected to their conservation. And I took some notes and want to probably start with the keynotes of Professor Aradaki. She said three keywords: humanities, dialogue, and democracy. And I believe that in the previous talk, those three keywords were repeated, at least at the contents. The importance of humanities, of culture, of awareness of history and tradition. The dialogue, but the dialogue with different disciplines, not only scientific disciplines, but also between scientific disciplines and the humanities, and also dialogue with the different professionals. The necessity of dialogue has been pointed out also by other speakers. For instance, Professor Karadinas. I take a note in their effort to give the students the possibility to understand how important it is to work with others. They put together students with different formations, with different backgrounds, in order to test them in different fields and allow them to understand the importance of working together, and also to learn from experience and from formation of other people. This necessity of dialogue between disciplines and between people has been repeated by several of the speakers, and also Anna Lobokivov-Katz with her e-platform to become aware, to connect the cultural heritage, to understand and contribute the preservation throughout the study. And so the necessity to have a dialogue is not only limited to academic, but it also spans even in the case of public education and of general people. And the third point, that is democracy. I think the dialogue is the basis of democracy, because only in view of the democracy it is possible to give the same importance to all discipline, the same importance to all the formation, and to give the possibility to share information, and also to become fruitful to the other, and also to be always available to learn from other views of the world, and also not only from the other formation of other people. So it is expected, as told Professor Lampropoulou, it is expected a change of mentality. It's necessary to introduce new ideas, new know-how, new expertise, and to promote transdisciplinarity, bearing in mind those three keywords regarding the humanities, the dialogue, and the democracy, probably in this order. And I take note also another impressive point that I saw during the speech of Anna Labovikov, and in the slide there were three questions that impressed me, because these are the three questions that maybe we should ask to ourselves in order to reconstruct our courses, reconstruct our educational path. The first one is what is cultural heritage? We need to explain the material, we need to explain the history, we need to explain all those stuff that will lead to the comprehension of problems related to conservation and restoration of materials and cultural heritage. The second question is why should we preserve it? And this is a question that can be addressed with transdisciplinarity, not only from a scientific point of view, but also with an historical and cultural answer that should be given to this question. And finally, how should we do it? The third question was how should we do it? And how should we do it as again an answer that must be transdisciplinary. Must be transdisciplinary because we should do it only by merging all the expertise, all the knowledge, all the aspects, and all the different information of the people in order to solve all those problems that are not limited to one aspect, that are not only scientific problems, but also context problems, but also historical problems, interpretation problems, and so on. And finally, I wish to point out another problem that has been raised firstly by Elisabetta Zendri, then it was also repeated by Professor Turner, that is the lacking of recognition of the professionals involved in conservation of cultural heritage. Probably it has been raised, this problem, by Professor Zendri because in Italy is perceived as a real problem, because when we graduate our students, one of the main problems is how can I work now? And it's quite surprising that in Italy, that holds a lot of cultural heritage, that is important for cultural heritage, most of our students have still problems in finding a permanent position because their formation, their role in the society is not recognized in Italy. And an example is also the fact that in Italian we do not have even a word to define the conservation scientist. Conservation scientist is a definition that exists outside Italy, and we do not have a translation. Obviously, we have a translation, but we do not have an Italian word to express the role and the activity of a conservation scientist. But I learned today that maybe this is a problem at least at European level. And so there is a real need to do our best, to do an effort in order to let the conservation scientists or whatever you want to call them, conservation scientists or professionists or professionals for restoration, conservation, or cultural heritage experts and so on. I believe that we must do our best in order to let this figure recognized at a European level, and also can be recognized even at a local level. But EDICULA maybe could give a contribution in this respect. EDICULA and all the other transnational or multinational projects can obviously give the basis for a recognition of this figure. Europe is a is not a country, but is a joint of several countries that are that holds most of the cultural heritage of the world. So it's quite unacceptable that those people who deals with conservation of cultural heritage are not recognized officially, and also that we must speak about the necessity to let European people aware of the importance of cultural heritage, because this should be the basis of our culture, of our formation, even at the lower level of education. And I think that I'm finished.
Thank you. There were highlighted several critical aspects concerning the master courses on the protection of monuments, with pilot the joint efforts between NTUA master course at the School of Architecture as an interdisciplinary program concerning the protection of monuments, and the two relevant master courses at La Sapienza and at Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design. A lot of perspectives have been pointed out by other approaches, like the ELICE approach from Technion, an interdisciplinary approach with hands-on as well, and the fourth approach concerning hands-on applications of electronic structure and laser techniques on materials. It's a panel which is opening many challenges, and these are going to be discussed and discussed again during this conference and furthermore. I would like now to pass the direction of the next panel to the Dean of the School of Architecture, Professor Panagiotis Tournikiotis from the NTUA. The next panel is concerning